All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we are going to be talking about D-Day and basically what happens in the fighting in Europe. Now, again, like I said in class, because of time restraint, we are not going to be going over every single battle or even like not even a quarter of the battles or any, it's a really small amount we're going to get through because of, again, time restraint. The end of the school year is coming and there's so much we got to go through, and then we got to still talk about the Holocaust. So I'm skipping a bunch of stuff. Okay, I do apologize. I wish I could go and spend like 6 months on this, but I can't. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get to our warm up picture. So there it is for you. The the first question asks you to analyze this picture and basically tell me what do you think this author artist is trying to say. I know what's happening in this picture, and then the second question. I'm already having brain farts. Um, the second one is what is this artist trying to say? Now, here's the thing: you should already know who Stalin is. Excuse me one second. There we go. You should already know who Stalin is. You should have learned that from last year in world history. But if you don't know who Stalin is, um, you can tell one thing: he's not a Nazi. Okay, so he's the leader of a country. Starts with an R. So then they were fighting against the Nazis in World War II. And you may want to look at his hands, what he has on one hand and the other. Okay, so go ahead, write your response, pause the video, okay, because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so the Allies already have Italy. This you guys should have remembered from last lesson or the last video. So from November 18th, 1943, all the way to March 24th, 1944, the Battle of Berlin begins. Basically, the German capital is constantly bombed throughout that time, bombed by the British, the Americans, the uh, the Russians, and the thing is, it's kind of revenge. You know, Germany has tormented countries by bombing them. Invading countries after bombing them. So this is kind of a payback in a sense by the Allies, kind of letting them know, hey, this is how it feels like, and we're coming after you. We are within range of you now. You know, So this is a little wake up call to the not only the German government, the Nazis, but also the German people. So now comes the day where the Allies need to get a foothold in Europe, some way, somehow, and that's where D-Day comes in, June 6th, 1944. Now here's the thing: a lot of people think it's like that top picture. That's exactly what it is. That just we just bombed, you just bombarded the beaches. No, that's not the case. The thing is, just after midnight, 24,000 paratroopers in 1,000 different planes jumped over or flew over the English Canal and were dropped behind enemy lines. So let's say here's the beach. Okay, here's some forest land and stuff like that, and then this is where the paratroopers were dropped. Their job was to get the German soldiers, tanks, and stuff like that to get them away from the beaches, as many people as they could away from the beaches. So when they came in on the beach, they didn't have as much of as resistance. Okay, um, and that's what happened. It worked. So at 6:30, the land invasion began. Now, in total, 176,000 men crossed the channel in 5,300 boats along a stretch of beach that was about 45 miles wide. Okay, this was called Operation Overload or Overlord. My bad. Um, Now everyone remembers, or because if you played video games or you watched, World War II movies, you've heard the term Omaha Beach. Yes, that is a term for a specific part of Normandy. Okay, so one of the more one of the more famous ones. The other section where the United States landed on was a section called Utah. Now, the British soldiers, they landed in two sections as well. One was called Gold, and the other one was called Sword. Now, here is one that people really do not know about. The Canadians, yes, our neighbors to the north, the Canadians were even there on D-Day. They landed on one section of beach called Juno. Okay, now up until this point, the Battle of Antietam in the Civil War was the bloodiest one day the United States have ever encountered. D-Day would beat that. Okay, about 2,500 men were killed, in Antietam. And on the D-Day was more. Okay, but that didn't stop our guys from storming the beach. They is basically we had to do this. No ands if or buts about it. We had to storm the beach, take it over, so that our troops can get in there. And that's what happened. They just constantly persisted, pushing their way through, and ended up taking the beaches. Okay, and they retreated backwards. So with this happening, now that the Allies have a foothold in Europe, now they start bringing the tanks, jeeps, soldiers. They start taking over areas nearby, and now they have areas for their planes and things like that. So little by little, the Allies are taking over in Europe. Now Hitler, if you remember back um, from the last lesson, he's attacking Russia and he's losing bad, especially at the Battle of Stalingrad. He gets his first official L, in that battle. So he sees like Russia as a lost cause. He's like, you know what? We're not going to win there. They're too hard. They're too difficult. So he basically takes his soldiers, a large portion of them, and brings them to Europe. He's hoping that this push will scoot the Allies out of Europe, and that way he can get control of it all over again. Um, so yeah. Now there's a little joke. Well, it's not really a joke, but it's kind of a thing that these Germans or Nazis would say, like if someone did something bad, or if they disobeyed an order, or someone did something that they weren't supposed to, that they were going to be sent to the Eastern Front. That's the Russian side. That was basically like a death sentence. If you heard that, like, oh, so and so is being sent to the Eastern Front, they're like, oh man, he's dead. Because again, the Russians were seen as like almost indestructible. They just kept coming and coming. All right, so here's your first question. Do you think that the D-Day plan was the best way to take the beaches? Okay, it was like a straight blitz, just straight bam, put all of our might into one spot, one area, one beach, 45 miles, but still, bam, punch that hole through. Do you think that's a smart tactic? If so, why do you think so? If you say, no, they could have done something different, well, tell me, what would you have done differently? Okay, you have soldiers, you have ships, you have planes, bombs, things like that. How would you have done differently if you were in charge? Okay, so pause the video, write your response, okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here's the thing. At this point, Hitler didn't have complete love from his people. Now, early on, yeah, 10 years before, people were loving him because he was getting them out of the Great Depression. He was getting people jobs again, things like that, bringing Germany back to its quote unquote former glory. But now that the war is happening, some people are like, I don't like what's happening here. I don't like how he's basically making German people do this and that, and hi Hitler, everything has to be Hitler this. We have to have portraits of him in our places. The SS people arrest anybody who thinks differently and things like that. So it's like some people are kind of backing up, but a lot of people who were starting to question his orders and so that were his military people, the top brass people. Maybe not the top generals, But like lieutenant generals and colonels and things like that, um, these were the guys who were starting to were like, hey, maybe we'd be better off without him. Things would be a lot different. The world would be out of this war if we got rid of him. So what happened is this: we know that there are at least 42 different plans to kill Adolf Hitler. Okay, excuse me. These are plans that were written down, documented, things like that. That's how we know about them. The thing is, we don't know exactly how many there were, how many different plans, because some of them could have been told, talked about, nothing written down, and that was it. So who knows how many different plans there were. Also, we don't know the total number of attempts. You know, we don't know if someone tried to kill him, like shoot him, but then all these generals are in the way, so that's an attempt that didn't count. Because hey, he was surrounded. The chance to shoot him wasn't there. So that's a problem. But the one thing we do know is there was one plot that almost got him. This happened on July 20th. It's known as the July Plot or Operation Valkyrie. Okay, high-level German officials decided, to stage a coup d'état. A coup is basically when the military takes over the government, and that's what the plan was: kill Hitler and the top brass, Goebbels and those guys, Himmler, kill them, then arrest the SS, take over the government, and try to establish some type of negotiations or peace with the Allies before, Germany's completely taken over or the civilians are killed. Now, the plan was this. In the Wolf Slayer, which is in Prussia, Poland, um, there's a concrete building. The plan was to detonate the bomb in there. Okay, now because it's concrete, one of two things probably would have happened. One, the detonation would have crumbled the whole building down, and Hitler and everyone inside would be dead from the rocks and things coming down, right? The other thing was, if it didn't collapse, then the pressure from the bomb within a concrete building would have easily killed everyone inside. Because the bomb couldn't explode out because of the concrete. It would have then moved through all the buildings, all the rooms, and things like that, and basically killed everyone. That was the original plan. But on July 20th, because it was really hot, they decided to move it from the concrete building to the kind of like wood shack type of building, you know. Um, and the bomb detonated, but it didn't kill Hitler. He was bruised, he was hurt, but he wasn't killed, you know. And those people who conspired, who tried to kill him, were caught and executed. And those people were Colonel General Ludwig Beck, Colonel General Frederick Ulbricht, Major General Henning von Treschow, and the guy who detonated the bomb and stuff like that, Lieutenant Colonel Schneck von Stauffenberg. Okay, so all these guys were caught and they were executed. Now, August 15th, American and French forces take over southern France. Now, Hitler starts telling his men, come back to Germany right now. The Allies actually trap 80,000 the Germans, right? So the Germans are here, they have to get here. Okay, there we go. They have to get here. And this is where the Allies start dropping bombs. Now, what would you normally do if you were running and all some bombs would start dropping in front of you? Just right there, right? Chances are you would be like, okay, well, I'm going to stop right here, wait till they stop, and then make my way through, right? Or maybe go around or do something, right? No, these guys go straight through. Yeah, bombs are going up and they're just running it. They're running right through it. And of the 80,000, 10,000 die. So, yeah, that's how, when they were given orders, they followed it, even if it meant their death. So here's my next question to you. If the July plot had been successful and Hitler had been killed, do you think that his undermen, the people below him, would have taken over? Or do you think it would have been like, no, the people would have been like, oh no, our fearless leader is dead. Oh, there's no point of going on, type of thing. So do you think that somebody would be like, no, let's take over. This is for Hitler. Let's do this for him. Let's finish his dream for Germany. Or do you think they'd be like, nope, it's over. We have no leader. Hitler was the only leader. Let's just call it a day. Just quit. What do you think? Which one sounds more reasonable? Which one sounds more logical? All right. So tell me what you think. Pause the video. Don't forget the why. Don't forget the why. Okay, guys. All right. So pause the video. Write your response because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right. So the Allies are taking back parts of Europe that the Nazis controlled. And the Nazis controls getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. What the Nazis decide to do is give one last push. And this is known as the Battle of the Bulge. Now, this happened on December 16th, 1944. And basically what happened is, if you look at this map, that purple line you see through the map, that's where the original front was. That's how far the Allies had gotten. But if you look at the red lines, that's where the Nazis were coming through. And you can see they pushed the line little by little by little. Okay. They basically had 20 infantry divisions, about 250,000 men, along a 50-mile front with 600 tanks behind them and their air force, which was whatever was left of it. They were able to cut off some allied from one another, supplies, reinforcements, things like that. And they were actually able to surround and take 10,000 soldiers. Now, before they did this, um, they told the commanding officer, hey, we got you surrounded, things like that, you should give up. And his response was, oh, nuts. So, yeah. It was like, okay, so we don't care. Come on, let's fight, type of thing. So, yeah, the Germans thinking, hey, we got this. We're pushing them back. We're winning this. Well, by January 30th, 1945, the Allies had gained back all that land. So, where you see that little dot purple, that's as far as the Germans got before the Allies pushed them all the way back. Basically, the Battle of Bulge is over at this point. 19,000 U.S. soldiers are dead. 60,000 are wounded, captured, or missing. The Germans, however, I told you they had 250,000 men. They lost about 100,000 men in this battle. And basically every single one of their tanks and planes were destroyed. So this is basically the beginning of the end. And just to make matters worse for the Germans, on April 25th, 1945, American and Russian troops actually meet at this town called Torgau. And Germany was basically cut in half. The Americans and Russians were like, oh, hey, you guys are Russians, huh? Yeah. You guys are Americans, huh? Yeah. Oh, hey, what's up, allies? Okay, should we go this way? Yeah, okay. And they basically just continue marching. The next day, the Russians enter Berlin. So here's my question to you, then your third question. If you were a German soldier and your side gave one last big hoorah, one last attack, but you guys lost, what would you do? You and your soldiers, you guys, your fellow comrades, this is your last push, your last good hard fight you can give, and you guys lose. So what do you do next? Do you surrender to the Allies? Like, hey, you know what? I'm done. It's over with. I'm surrendering. Do you go AWOL? Now, I know some of you guys may not know what that term means. It means absent without leave. Basically, you're a soldier, but you just take off, you know. So, would you do that? Or do you retreat and prepare to fight the last battles? Basically, like, hey, I fought all this whole war, might as well fight it to the end, you know. What do you do? Okay. And then why did you choose this? Tell me, why did you choose to surrender or go AWOL or retreat and fight for another day? Tell me why you did that. Okay. So pause the video, write your response. Okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So April 30th, the Russians go into Reichstag. Now this is the heart of the German power. Now, a lot of people thought, oh, Berlin because it's the capital. No, no, Reichstag was the heart of the Nazi power. So later that afternoon, the Russians are basically half a mile away from the Nazi headquarters. Um, Hitler and his men, his top lieutenant people, they are in a bunker. And they're just like, okay, this is it. This is the end. So Hitler marries his longtime girlfriend, Eva Braun. And Hitler is basically putting down the last of his affairs in order. He appoints Admiral Karl Donitz as the head of state and Joseph Goebbels as the chancellor of Germany. So he appoints them to those positions. He basically tells his soldiers, "You're going to hear a gunshot. When you hear the gunshot, take my body out and burn it." So he goes into the room with his new wife, Eva Braun. She poisons herself. They poison their dogs. And then Hitler shoots himself. And the soldiers do just what he said. Once they hear the gunshot, they get his body, they take it outside, and they burn it. Okay. And then a little bit later, the Russians come in and they take the bunker. So, May 7th, Germany surrenders. May 9th, Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day, is proclaimed. And people are celebrating because now this is the end of the Nazis. But it's not the end of the war. The war is still being fought in the Pacific against Japan. So November 22nd to the 26th, the Allies have a conference in Cairo, Egypt, and they basically agree the only surrender they'll accept from Japan is unconditional, meaning no armistice. You don't shoot us, we won't shoot you. No, you put down every single one of your weapons, all your soldiers surrendered, all your stations everywhere around, you guys quit fighting completely while we still have our weapons and stuff like that. So you guys stop fighting completely. Everybody. That's the only surrender they'll take. And you'll see later on if they get it or not. So here is your exit ticket question. Remember, you can pick one of the two questions. The first one says, why do you think Hitler killed himself? What is the possible reason you could think of? Why would he shoot himself and then have his body burned? Why? Okay. The second one is because basically what happens is once the Allies come through and they show the German people what happened to the Nazi people, some German people claimed, "Oh, I had no idea this stuff happened to these people. Oh, I had no idea this was what was done to them." And some people were like, "Yeah, sure you didn't know. You know, you knew what was going on." So my question to you is this: do you really think some Germans had no idea what was going on? Do you believe them? Or do you think like, no, no, they had to have known what was going on, when they were rounding up the Jewish people and things like that. They had to have known that kind of stuff. What do you think? Do you think that's true, or do you think no, that some people were actually like in the blue on it? They were just living their lives and you know, whatever happened to other people, they didn't care. Just as long as life was going hunky dory for them. What do you think? Do you believe that crap or no? You say yes, I believe the German people had no idea about it. What do you think? You tell me. So once you've answered one of these two questions, you are done with this lesson. Okay. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, I'm really sorry I didn't put everything down, but again, this is a time restraint thing, and also, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't be able to teach everything I wanted to teach about World War II. I could spend 6 months on this. There's so much stuff going on in World War II, that yeah, it's just hard to condense a lesson down to it. Okay, so if you do want to learn more, again, World War II in the documentary is called World War II in HD, World War II in color, the rise and fall of the Third Reich, you know, um, like the greatest World War II battles and some of that, or heroes. Those are good documentaries. You should really watch those if you are interested in that. Okay, so you guys take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.